Origins, in my personal opinion, should have been the flagship feature of the Federation's expansion, not just Federations themselves. No, I feel that Origins is far more interesting than Federations could ever hope to be. Then again, I haven't really touched Federations yet, so who knows? Who knows? Regardless, today we're going to be talking about Origins and a little bit more stuff about them. Probably things that you probably had questions about, but were afraid to ask. So, Origins. Random AI empires, do they choose an origin? It will be completely random. Well, it's completely scriptable. It's set by weight. So if you have more than, say, 10 different empires within your galaxy, there's a good chance that they will have a weird origin coming out sooner or later. So that's something that you want to be aware of. And then in addition to that, there's events attached to every origin as well, which that empire will then have. I'll give you an example here. Galactic Doorstep, which is a narrative-driven origin, which I really like the idea behind. You will get events that eventually may allow you to unlock the gateway that is sitting in your system to somewhere else. So you may have get access to gateways a lot earlier than others would, which is something really interesting. We're a Shattered World, which is also a potential origin that could come to pass, which would be super overpowered if you would find it somewhere in the mid-game on an alien empire. Yeah, it doesn't really have a lot of narrative. It's just a change in start, so that's something you want to watch out for. Although it does allow for a lot of very interesting starting conditions, which say, oh yeah, everybody starts on a Shattered World, or everybody starts on a doomed world, or something along those lines. So that is a fascinating little approach. I'm really curious on how we can push this. Some of the preset empires do have origins, whether or not I believe the Commonwealth of Man has a distant or lost colony origin attached to it, so that's definitely something. Empires that previously had civics that have been turned to origins will get these, so again, lost colony and all that stuff. There's a couple of new ones being added. The Locan Mechanists, which we've talked about before, they get technocracy and meritocracy. They've been tweaked a little bit necessarily through a origin. Actually, mechanists. Yeah, mechanists obviously is one of the origins, so yeah. But then the question is, can you change origins similar to how you can change ethics by pushing an ideology war? No, you can't change the origins of a species because that would cause different problems, let's put it that way. And sadly, in addition to that, there are currently no origins that generate unique technologies, which I think is a real shame. I really wish that we could get more unique technologies in the game, similar to the void beams, for instance. I always felt that the void beams were one of the most interesting things added. I believe it was distant stars or something along those lines. But yeah, like the unique systems with their new technology behind them. I love this sort of thing. It really personalizes an empire when they've got technology that you can't get, and it really puts that black box mystery around them. And then an extension of that, fallen empires, do they have origins? Yes, they do. They get their unique elder race origin. Once we get federations into our hand, I'm sure we will pull that one completely apart to see what it actually does in terms of their mechanics. Let's take a look here. How will origins for pre-FTL species that achieve spaceflight to be determined? Depends on whether or not they discover spaceflight on their own or if they've been enlightened. So they'll probably become like a Scion, potentially, if they've been enlightened or something along those lines. Are the Special Machine Empire and Hive types moved to origins? No, they are all Civics, so they remain there. Not entirely sure. I'm sure. Yeah, okay, I understand why they do that. The Special Machine Empire and Hive Mind types being moved to origins makes perfect sense because they don't want to lock all this stuff behind various expansions, and they're already locked behind expansions to begin with, at least the Machine Empires and Hive Minds. So it makes sense not to mess around with them too much. What origin outside of Doomsday is the weakest? Which one is the strongest? Life-seeded Shattered Ring is apparently extremely strong. Oh no, just life-seeded is very strong, which is interesting considering that is a Gaia world start, which means that other planets are not all that interesting to you. They do start off with a size 20 Gaia world, I want to say, and the Shattered Ring, which makes perfect sense because starting on a Ringworld is incredibly powerful. Life-seeded is extremely strong with the Baul precursor, which is quite good as well. And there is a note about the 2 Federation starts being quite good as well, which is the Federation start and I believe the Hegemon start, which is 2 separate ones. But we'll talk about that later. So first of all, let's go over the basic origin. The prosperous unification. We'll just leave the general questions behind us and move on to the specific ones. So prosperous unification, the game starts with an additional 4 pops and additional 2 districts. It's the default one. It's basically what you get right now without any special civics and stuff like that. 4 extra pops, you get an extra building slot, which is pretty standard. So you can basically put in an alloy factory very early on, which is good. And this is this is basically the de facto generic start that you would get right now as well. So yeah, overall it's so default. There's not a lot to talk about. Let's move on towards Mechanist and Syncretic Evolution, an addition that is accessible, I believe, through, I want to say Utopia or Apocalypse, because they were added back then. Still, the Mechanist and Syncretic Evolution, very straightforward. Syncretic Evolution stays the same. You get 12 pops of a different subservient species. With Mechanist, you get 8 robots, and you can continue building them. You need to be materialist, etc. So, yeah, that origin is a straight-up move from the Civic to the origin system, which makes perfect sense. It's a good way to background stuff, and on top of that, you can get more civics in that way, in that sense, which is good. Syncretic Evolution remains incompatible with certain civics like Agrarian Idyll, Fanatic Purifier, Shared Burden, Slaver Guilds. So that really does not have Slaver Guilds. Really? Okay, that makes sense, I guess. You could still go Authoritarian and enslave them regardless, so there's not much of a problem there. Life-seeded and post-apocalyptic homeworld. Oh, it's a size 25 Gaia world, so there you go. Will Agrarian Ideal Civic be compatible with post-apocalyptic Remnants, Shattered World, and Void Dwellers origin? Will they have some weird interactions? Agrarian Ideal is both incompatible with life-seeded and post-apocalyptic, so that's something you want to keep in mind. Post-apocalyptic is exactly the same as you would have it from Apocalypse. So there's no real changes there. So yeah. Are there any changes to life-seeded pops with beneficial things? Life-seeded and post-apocalyptic have traditionally been considered challenge civics. I don't necessarily agree to that, but hey, that's just a whole different discussion. Especially post-apocalyptic, you get habitability like crazy in that one. But yeah, apparently they're on the harder side. I wonder if they've got any data about that, if people are having a more difficult time with life-seeded and post-apocalyptic, because I don't really see any problems with them. Alright, now we get to the big boys. Remnants and Shattered Ring. So, Remnants, start off on a relic world. You get to try to reclaim your lost glory. There's a bunch of cool event chains behind it. You probably get access to all those cool relic world buildings with like the tech bonuses and stuff like that. That would be awesome. And the same thing for Shattered Ring, even though there is apparently not too much in terms of the narrative going on there. Ringworld will start with an arcane generator that is able to maintain some of your segments, so that's probably like minerals, because you wouldn't be able to get minerals off of a Shattered Ring, as unlike some other ones. And again, no Agrarian Ideal allowed for you. And yes, the Ringworld does count as a megastructure, so you can actually roll your megastructure tech more easily. So that one is actually quite kind of good. And of course, you can fix the rest of the ring once you get Mega Engineering. But of course, this is going to take time. And I want to say like 30,000 alloys or like 45,000 alloys or something along those lines. So yeah, interesting. Maybe there's an event chain at the end there as well. Will Shattered Ring Origin actually come with a downside? Mineral acquisition. Yeah. That's totally understandable. Mineral acquisition for Ringworld, totally understandable. But then again, you could just go full farms and just trade that food for minerals. It's a 1-to-2 ratio, I believe. So yeah, that's definitely a thing. The Arcane Generator also pushes them to a very unspecialized homeworld, since it will only support one district of each type. Really? Only one district of each type. So you can have only... that's still 200 pops that can be supported, I want to say. No, it's not 200 pops. It's still a reasonable amount, but it's interesting, though. Only one district of each type. Interesting. Lithoids can, of course, be really bad on this because lithoids are all about minerals, and if you can't use minerals, they're going to have a hard time. And again, the market is going to be important there. Void Dwellers. Next one. You start with 3 orbital habitats, and your species produce 15% more unset habitats. You have terrible issues living on other planets, and hydroponics farms have +1 farmer jobs. The real question is, have they boosted or at least changed the ability to build habitation modules on orbital habitats? And this has been a real problem in the past when it comes to getting stuff underway with those orbital habitats, with the joy that is the population issue that you get with them. I really don't like habitats at the moment. Maybe they'll change for federations, but we'll see. But yeah, all 3 habitats that you start with are inhabited, so your growth speed's actually going to be decent. Plus that 15% bonus to all resources could be good, and you could spam your entire system full with habitats kind of quickly. So yeah. Sadly, you don't get a discount on other habitats, but you do get other bonuses. What those are, we do not know. Large growth penalty, probably up to 50 to 75%. I would not be surprised. And is the Void Dweller perk locked with the habitability? For instance, you cannot keep this perk if you keep changing your pop's habitability. Void Dweller trait is separate from their habitability preference. If you turn your pop into desert preference, they will still be Void Dweller and desert preference, and will suffer a large penalty on planets. Okay, so the Void Dweller trait actually says that even though I've got a preference for the desert planet, I could still not really live here because of the Void Dweller trait. So you may want to genetically engineer that out at some point, or be completely focused on habitats. So that's something that's kind of important there. Okay. Scions, another origin. A fallen empire has meddled in the development of this civilization for thousands of years, guiding them on the path of their choosing. So Scions, they're basically vassals plus. They can expand, they cannot integrate, they are brought into the Overlord Wars, they can have diplomacy, they can make claims, they can go war themselves, commercial pact and research agreements. They're basically, like I mentioned, they're vassals plus, which is kind of good. It does mean that they are interesting, and they got a special CB to bring other empires into their master's fold and become another Scion. Interesting. So you can actually bring all the boys to the yard because of your milkshake, because of that CB. And there's storylines attached to this as well, which is rather curious. It's Scions have more frequent and unique encounters with fallen empires. Your overlord will make more demands of you than they would a normal empire, but also will help you more often. They're also likely to intervene if you get yourself into too much trouble. So that's cool. A lot of events there. That's awesome. All right, let's move on. Galactic Doorstep. You start as a civilization with a dormant gateway in your home system. That's it. You get a bunch of... there's quite a lot of storyline here. There is... there's quite a lot of events attached to this as well. Yeah, but it's... However, the required gateway technology tech is linked to the origin chain of events. We'll do a separate video about the galactic doorstep mechanics once Federation comes out. I've got a list to go through. Tree of Life. Tree of Life, basically, our Hive gains many bonuses from living on a planet that has a Tree of Life present, or penalties if it's absent. Colony ships are more expensive, but provide new planets with their own saplings. So, Tree of Life, it gives you a plus 15% growth speed, which for Hive minds is already pretty good. Plus 10 immunities, plus 10% social science, and plus 4 farming districts. And the same thing for the sapling, except it gives you a 10% growth speed and 5 amenities and 2 districts. But the real thing here is, well, if you lose the Tree of Life, if your planet gets destroyed and somebody destroys the tile with that Tree of Life, you will lose quite a lot of power. But then again, if you lose your capital, then you're already boned anyway. So, yeah. Interesting. And also, as far as I understand this, if you conquer a planet, it will not have a Tree of Life sapling on that planet unless you purge it and then recolonize it. So that is kind of important as well. Alright, on the Shoulder of Giants. This is one of my favorite ones because it adds a archaeological site to your planet, which is from a quote-unquote mysterious benefactor. So this is a very, very long chain called On the Shoulders of Giants, and it's basically part of the Ancient Relics expansion, where you get a special archaeology site at the start of the game that is completely unique to you, and you can go on a Indiana Jones-style wild goose chase to figure out what is going on. I'm actually really interested to see how that particular event chain is going to work out. I'm sure they've put quite a lot of time into it, and I'm really curious how this is going to go. I'm personally not a big fan of the archaeological system itself, mainly because it's just waiting for stuff to tick up whilst walking through a straight hallway. So yeah, apparently there's, although quite a lot of potential points of divergence here, the theme stays the same. There is a mysterious benefactor, but the outcome could be very different depending on what you do. Next one, Calamitous Birth. Calamitous Birth starts with a massive crater deposit on your homeworld, giving additional total districts and mining districts the ability to build the meteorite colony ship, which travels at great speed but damages their target planets. And you need to be lithoids for this. It's colony dropping. You nuke planets from orbit and live there. I love it. That's cool. You can still build all the other science colony ships, though, if you want. Next one. Resource consolidation. Will there be any drawbacks to picking a machine world start? Will resource consolidation remove your starting resource from the planet and asteroids that you have in your home system? The flavor text seems to point to this. Your starting system is entirely devoid of resources, except for the star, as they will all be used to build the machine world. That doesn't make any sense. It's just covering it with machinery. But yeah, I guess it makes sense. You're a robot and you start with a machine world, which by itself can be incredibly powerful. You cannot do this if you're a rogue servitor, but you can do it with all the other ones. Alright, Common Ground and Hegemon. This is one of the ones that people have been asking for quite some time. It is basically, you start off as a leader of a galactic union. Same thing with a Hegemon. You start off as a hegemony with 2 additional members, and that is basically a very powerful start on paper as well. It's completely randomized. You do not get to set these other empires similar to syncretic evolution, so that is not the case. There is no ability to change your type of federation unless the other federation members agree to this, so it can't just start as a trade league. It needs to be a federation type. They are just functionally completely AI empires. You basically start off with 2 friends, which on paper can be very, very powerful. I do think that these 2 are potentially some of the strongest origins available in the game, because my lord, being able to start with 2 friends and their fleet power and their production ability, especially if they're AI, is so very good. So very good indeed. So yeah, let's move on to Doomsday. Alright, here's an idea. Your homeworld will explode within 35 to 40 years. They've reduced the time a little bit, depending on your actions, which is cool. I can still do it in 10, but whatever. Valuable resources from the doomed planet's mantle boost production of the service. No guaranteed habitable worlds will spawn near your home system. Sounds like a fun time. Apparently AIs can get it. Okay, that's cool. For Doomsday is 64 years to final value. No, it's changed to be more random. It can be shorter, it can be longer, so that is interesting. If you are Fanatic Egalitarian, you're pretty much boned because you cannot use the resettlement pops. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to Doomsday. I've done videos on Doomsday style mechanics before, so I'm looking forward to this. Lost Colony, we talked a little bit about this. An advanced empire of this species is spawned somewhere in the galaxy. So what it basically means is if you spawn as the Commonwealth of Men, the United Earth will spawn somewhere as well as a larger empire, or at least an advanced empire. So that's something you want to keep in mind, which makes perfect sense. You get a unique first contact message with the UNE, etc. You're not necessarily good friends with them anyway because of your ethics and all the shifting there. So there's quite a lot of cool stuff there. Okay, so, and apparently there are a couple of ones that actually did not make it. Some of the origins that did not make the cut were third time's the charm. Your empire's first two attempts at colonizing utilizing slower than light technology have failed, and your empire is now low intel on their guaranteed planets. Those planets have leftover districts already built. That's interesting. Fratricide must be xenophobic but not pacifist. Your starting system will also contain a tomb world, another sentient species used to exist in the same star system, but after decades of unspeakable violence, your species came out on top. Interesting start as well. Escaped slaves. The captain of a slaving vessel suffered a fatal accident at the hand of his cargo. You've managed to land on a nearby world. Start with a mixture of pops from other species in the galaxy instead of your chosen species. That is really cool. Interesting. We also had a Birth by Calamity origin proposal that involved space amoebas for fans of bubbles. That is amazing. But yeah, there's quite a lot of cool stuff available here for Origins, and of course, it's completely moddable. I'm really looking forward to see the gigantic list of awesome Origins that are going to come up sooner or later. So yeah, that's definitely what we want to keep our eyes on in the future when it comes to the Steam Workshop. And that is pretty much it when it comes to Origins and everything that you probably wanted to know. Next week, we're going to be talking about the 2.6 update performance situation, something that has been touched upon to a certain extent lately. We got a confirmation 2.6 Verne has been confirmed based on Jules Verne of such books as 20,000 Leagues Under the Ocean. In the meantime, I want to thank all my patrons for making this here video possible. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't be able to do it without your guys' support, of course, your viewers as well. And if you want to get involved with the whole Patreon stuff, feel free to click the link and we'll be glad to see you there. If you want to know anything else about the upcoming stuff for Federation, here's 2 videos on their subject. It's about Federations and one of the other ones as well. So feel free, it's the Envoys, it's the Galactic Community. So feel free to click on one of those and watch those for more information about Federations. Looking forward to see you soon, and I'm looking for your comments as well. Until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, each other.